So guys, we are waiting. We are waiting for the live feed from SpaceX. So in the meanwhile, जब तक कि लाइव फीड चालू न हो जाए, थोड़ी सी मैं तुमको अपडेट ये दे देता हूं कि आज का जो लॉन्च है उसके लिए 25%, हेलो हेलो, गुड मॉर्निंग, सो for today's launch there is 25% favorable conditions for liftoff. So there's a big chance because it was supposed to start at 8:40 and it's 8:59 and still it has not started. So इसका मतलब यह है कि there is a possibility कि we may see a message popping up of rescheduling of the flight. Okay, so just 24 minutes back, the message has come that 12:30 a.m. European time. So 12:30 a.m. European time means we will have to wait. We will have to wait. I'm fine, Kushal. How about you, dear? Anyways, so let me tell you more about the upcoming launches. There are so many upcoming launches right now. Today we have one more. We'll be covering one more launch today. So if this particular launch gets delayed or postponed, then we will be having one more in the afternoon, and that is confirmed. And that is from South Korea, KSLV. That is from South Korea, KSLV. So, fine. Let me show you. Just a sec. So, hello guys. So, all my dear space enthusiast friends, today we are supposed to witness the Arabsat launch, but it seems that there is some issue because the feed is just not moving ahead, and this is the one that I'm talking about. So this will be live in 5 hours today at 2:45 p.m. Indian Standard Time. It's a launch from Korean Space Agency and the launch vehicle is KSLV. Korean Space Launch Vehicle. We have PSLV, GSLV, they have KSLV. So we'll be covering this live at 2:45 p.m. And not only this, these all are upcoming launches. We have Roscosmos Soyuz launch, that is also today only, 24th, 6:15. So back to back. We have one today right now. This may get postponed. Then we have one at 2:45 p.m. Then one at 6:15 p.m. Then tomorrow early morning we have at 5:30 a.m. That is about the Virgin Galactic Unity, spaceship Unity. Then we have the NASA launch from Electron Rocket Lab, that is on 25th. So 25th 5:30 a.m., 25th 9:15 a.m. Very busy schedule, very busy schedule, right? So the launch has been postponed just a sec. The launch has been postponed. We will see the exactly what's the time for the launch now for this Arabsat Badr website satellite. You know, there is one trivia about this is that if you'll see, so 10 a.m. okay, so it's after 1 hour. So after 1 hour the launch has been rescheduled for 10 a.m. Indian Standard Time. I think they have not updated it here. यहाँ पे update नहीं किया है. Okay. So the trivia is that there was a point in the history at some time, different, you know, mostly those football playing nations and all those agencies that control the football rights, whether World Cup or Champions League and all other big leagues that happen, La Liga and what all other leagues, they all wrote to the government that some piracy is happening through Arabsat, and the whole league is, you know, illegally is being shown word over, you know, transmission is happening word over, telecasted word over using Arabsat. So this is also one aspect. एक ये भी चीज़ है जो Arabsat के बारे में काफ़ी खुखार है, मतलब सैटेलाइट ही यूज़ कर डाली उनने इलीगली टेलीकास्ट करने के लिए फुटबॉल मैचेस. ये शायद 2019 की बात होगी, 2019 या 20 की बात होगी. तो उनको चिट्ठी लिखी गई कि अरे भाई साहब आप थोड़ा ध्यान दीजिए, आपकी सैटेलाइट को यूज़ किया जा रहा है. और मतलब ऐसा है कि जैसे होते हैं ना टेलीकास्ट के राइट्स होते हैं ना, स्ट्रीमिंग राइट्स होते हैं. जैसे इन आर केस IPL द स्ट्रीमिंग राइट्स हैव बीन गिवन टू जियो, तो जियो पे आ रहा है वो. तो वैसे अगर स्ट्रीमिंग राइट्स किसी एक पर्टिकुलर प्राइवेट एंटिटी को आपने बेच दिए हैं तो बाकी उसको नहीं कर सकते ना, और इस पे रोक कौन लगाएगी? सरकार. लेकिन अगर सरकार की ही वेबसाइट सेटेलाइट को यूज़ करके करा जा रहा है और सब मज़े से देख रहे हैं, तो बाद में सी एवरीथिंग इज़ अबाउट रेवेन्यू. ये सब रेवेन्यू का ही मामला होता है. अभी जो मैचेस होते हैं उन मैचेस से बड़े यू नो शानदार जो फंक्शंस करे जाते हैं, तो एट द एंड ऑफ द डे ऑल दैट ग्लैमर एंड ऑल दो ग्लैमरस इवेंट्स दे कैन ओनली हैपन, दे नीड मनी फॉर दैट, राइट. तो फाइनेंस वाला पार्ट तो देखना ही पड़ता है, तभी तो ये स्ट्रीमिंग राइट्स बेचे जाते हैं. IPL 9-10 हज़ार करोड़ रुपए कमाता है यार, अपने स्ट्रीमिंग राइट्स के थ्रू कमाता है. और बाकी जो भी फ्रेंचाइज वगैरह इनका जो भी मॉडल है, बट देन दे अर्न लॉट ऑफ मनी. अब वहाँ पर अगर इट्स जस्ट लाइक दैट कि जियो को तो स्ट्रीमिंग राइट्स बिके हैं, लेकिन कोई दूसरा देश वो अपनी सैटेलाइट को यूज़ करके सबको दिखा रहा है मस्त. जैसे अभी जियो जो है उसके थ्रू तो आप देख रहे हो, लेकिन यूरोप में कुछ दोस्त लोग हैं वो कैसे देख रहे हैं? हाउ दे आर दे यूजिंग जियो सिम? तो जियो सिम के थ्रू नहीं देख रहे हैं, वो भी कुछ करामात के थ्रू ही देख रहे हैं. होता ही है, इट हैपन्स. तो जब ये पता चला कि भाई अरबसेट जो सेटेलाइट है उसके थ्रू थोड़ा स्ट्रीम किया जा रहा है, तो सबने रिक्वेस्ट की कि आप प्लीज़ इसको रोकिए, इस पर रोकथाम लगवाइए, ऐसा. ओके, सो दोस्तों अभी व्हाट विल डू नाउ, इस सेशन को मैं यहाँ पर ही रोक देता हूँ एंड विल मीट अगेन आफ्टर एन आवर. अभी 9:05 हुई है एंड विल मीट आफ्टर एन आवर. 1 घंटे बाद मिलते हैं टू विटनेस द लॉन्च लाइव. ओके, गुड मॉर्निंग हर्षित. बिल्कुल हिंदी में आ गया ना दोस्त, हिंदी में बात करिए अपन ने. हेलो हिमांशु. ओके फाइन, सो दैट इज ऑल. अभी इसी स्ट्रीम को वापस से मैं चालू कर दूंगा, है ना. आई विल स्टार्ट द सेम स्ट्रीम. ओके, 1 घंटे बाद, ठीक है.
You're looking at a live view of the Falcon Heavy on historic launch pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center, awaiting liftoff at 6:35 p.m. local time. Welcome to our live webcast of the Falcon Heavy Arabsat 6A mission from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. My name is Jesse Anderson, and I'm a manufacturing engineer here at SpaceX. I'm so excited to be here with you today, along with my co-hosts, bringing you coverage of the second launch of Falcon Heavy. It's the first Falcon Heavy launch carrying a payload for a customer, and tonight our customer is Arabsat.
And I'm Alex Siegel. I'm a material planner here at SpaceX. We first flew our Falcon Heavy vehicle a little more than a year ago. It is the world's most powerful operational rocket by a factor of 2. With 28 engines, 3 boosters, 3 separation events, and 3 landing attempts, there's going to be a lot of activity happening all at once. The payload tonight is a geostationary communications satellite, which will provide state-of-the-art communication services to customers in the Middle East and Africa.
Tonight's launch window is about 2 hours long, and we're planning to launch at the top of that window. If we're unable to launch tonight, our backup window opens up on Saturday, April 13th. We're currently at T-minus 14 minutes and counting, and all systems are go in Cape Canaveral.
Today, Falcon Heavy will deliver the Arabsat 6A payload to its intended orbit more than 20,000 miles above the Earth's equator. That's significantly higher than normal, which is why we're flying a Falcon Heavy. Now let's take a closer look at the rocket. Falcon Heavy is essentially 3 Falcon 9 rockets strapped together, which means it can carry much larger payloads not only to Earth orbit, but to the Moon and Mars as well. Like the Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy is a 2-stage launch vehicle. The big difference, of course, is that the Falcon Heavy first stage is comprised of 3 cores, and Falcon 9 only has 1. Each one of these cores has 9 Merlin 1D engines, making for a total of 27 engines overall, as you can see on your screen. Now, altogether, these engines produce over 5 million pounds of thrust, equal to 18 747s at takeoff. In fact, the engines produce so much power that we don't run them at full thrust all at once until after liftoff. For the mission today, each one of these 3 Falcon 9 boosters is brand new. It's also going to be the first time we are flying Falcon Heavy with our upgraded Block 5 cores, which feature more lift capacity, a beefed-up heat shield, and other changes to make the boosters more reliable and easier to reuse.
During ascent, Falcon Heavy will throttle its thrust up and down on both side boosters and the center core to balance aerodynamic and structural loads on the vehicle. About 70% of the way through the first stage burn, the 2 side boosters will separate and come back to Earth for a simultaneous landing at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station on Landing Zone 1 and Landing Zone 2. At this point, the mission will proceed just like a standard Falcon 9 flight. The center core will keep firing for another minute, then we'll perform a standard stage separation from the second stage. We will attempt to land the center core on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which is currently stationed about 535 nautical miles off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean. It's worth mentioning that for this mission 9 flight, tonight the second stage will be sending our payload to geosynchronous transfer orbit. The spacecraft will then maneuver into a geostationary orbit more than 20,000 miles above the Earth's equator. Now, to put that into perspective, that's equivalent to almost an entire trip around the world, traveling along the Earth's equator.
Speaking of the satellite, it is safely enclosed inside the 17-foot diameter payload fairing, which is the pointed cone on the very top of the rocket. This protects the payload from aerothermal loads, heating, and contamination during ascent. Now, once we reach the vacuum of space, we will jettison the fairing as the second stage continues on its journey to orbit. While Mr. Steven, our ship, will not be supporting today's mission, we do plan to recover the fairing pieces from the ocean using our recovery ships Go Searcher and Go Pursuit. And lastly, you'll notice the tall structure next to the rocket, which we call the fixed service structure. Its primary function is to provide passengers access to the Crew Dragon vehicle during crewed missions. But since we do not have any passengers aboard today's flight, the fixed service structure does not have a role to fill. Now let's check in on how the countdown is going.
Good Thursday afternoon. I'm John Innsbrucker, the Falcon Principal Integration Engineer at SpaceX. We are T-minus 10 minutes, 28 seconds from the launch of the Falcon Heavy. As I like to say in my updates, the SpaceX team is working no significant issues and is on time for launch. Now, Falcon Heavy rolled out to the pad with the payload early Wednesday morning and went vertical about 6 hours later. Now, after yesterday's scrub, the vehicle remained vertical on the pad. The pad deck was cleared at about T-minus 8 hours to begin today's hazardous operations. Just before we began the webcast, the SpaceX launch director polled the 9 members of the launch team and got a go for both propellant loading and for launch. Now we're currently loading propellant on all 3 first-stage boosters and the second stage.
Data science and analytics are not the trends of the future. They're happening right now. So having the skills to work with data is not only valuable, it is essential now as data becomes increasingly important for industries around the world. To help you get these essentials in place, Scalar is conducting a free class for professionals from any background who wish to learn data science and analytics. Whether you're looking to switch to a data-focused career or you just want to learn more about this growing field, this live class is perfect for you. Click on the link below to register.
Ever heard of mind sports? That doesn't make any sense. We know about cricket, we know about football, but what is this mind sports? Mind sports are sports where minds battle against each other. I am Neelakanta Bhanuprakash, the world's fastest human calculator and the Olympic gold winner at the Mind Sports Olympiad 2020. Just like how playing physical sports keeps your body fit, engaging in mind sports keeps your mind fit and running. Sudoku, chess, Go, and speed math are a few examples of these mind sports. Mathematics for me was fun because it was more than a subject. It was a mind sport. To inculcate that very experience into your child, I have built experiential math learning programs and speed math training programs which help your child discover their way into mind sports.
Now our propellants are an oxidizer, liquid oxygen, and a fuel, kerosene. Why did we pick these two? Well, obviously in space there's no oxygen needed to support combustion. So we bring our own as liquid oxygen. It's readily available and it supports efficient combustion. We chill it to get it as dense as we can in order to maximize how much we can load onto the rocket. Our fuel is RP1, essentially a purified kerosene. It is safe, easily available, has a lot of history. The Saturn V first stage flown from this very pad on the moon missions used liquid oxygen and kerosene. Now on the spacecraft side, the Arabsat 6A team began transfer to internal power at T-minus 21 minutes, and just a few minutes ago they completed that. They are go for launch. Now for tonight's mission, we're using the Falcon Heavy to place the satellite into an orbit with an apogee near 90,000 kilometers. This is much higher than the apogee of a normal geotransfer orbit. With this higher apogee, it is more efficient for the satellite to maneuver into its final geo orbit. The range is currently green. They are prepared to support today's mission. And for the weather, the good news is the upper altitude winds are much lower today, so both ground level and upper altitude winds are go for launch. No worries there. Now, as Jesse mentioned, we did start the day with a 2-hour launch window. However, now that we are into LOX loading, we don't have the ability to hold the countdown. If there is an issue in the last minutes, there isn't enough time in the window to stop, reload the cold liquid oxygen, and still launch today. There is a backup date, though, this Saturday, April 13th at the same time. Now, as I've said before, launch is hard, and Falcon Heavy is no exception. We are essentially counting down 3 rockets simultaneously. So the SpaceX team is going to be conservative in case anything pops up in the last minutes. But as the energy from the team gathering below me outside of the Mission Control Center is growing, we are go at T-minus 7 minutes and 20 seconds.
As we mentioned earlier, the payload being launched tonight is for our customer Arabsat, one of the world's top satellite providers in the Arab world, reaching tens of millions of homes in more than 80 countries. Arabsat 6A, which was built by Lockheed Martin, is a high-capacity telecommunications satellite that will deliver television, radio, internet, and mobile communications to customers in the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. Here's a quick message from our customer.
One world, one heart. A world so different, yet so alike. Our world. The one and only world where we feel more at home. A world that's growing wider than ever, with more choices and more possibilities. The world of Arabsat, the largest
After that, the strong back portion will recline away from the Falcon Heavy. It moves just under 2 degrees until liftoff, when it will move the rest of the way
of our
back
first
from the
operational
launch vehicle.
Falcon Heavy flight.
Now, a lot's
We're
going to
currently
happen in the
T-minus
first
6
4
minutes,
minutes
10
of flight
seconds from
of the Falcon
liftoff.
Heavy.
Now, fuel
We'll first
loading
light
is
the two
completed
side
on the
boosters,
Falcon
and then
Heavy.
fractions of a second
Liquid
later,
oxygen
the
loading
center
is
core.
continuing.
The flight computer on Falcon Heavy will check power on the 27 Merlin 1D engines, then command release from the ground hold downs at T0. 40 seconds into flight, we'll decrease power on the 2 side boosters in preparation for maximum aerodynamic loads on the vehicle. Once we get through this period, Falcon Heavy will throttle back up to power on the side boosters. Once we get 2 minutes into flight, we will again reduce thrust on the 2 side boosters. At this point in time, the vehicle is much lighter, having burned much of the propellant, but the thrust is constant, so the acceleration, hence the loads, are continuing to increase. So we will reduce thrust on the side boosters to decrease forces on the rocket structure. When we get 2.5 minutes into flight, we'll fully turn off the side boosters, an event called BECO, Booster Engine Cutoff. The pneumatic separation system on the center core then unlocks the 2 side boosters and pushes them away. You've just heard the call out. They're going to begin retracting the clamp arms as part of the TE strong back retract sequence. Meanwhile, back in the ascent sequence of event, once we get the side boosters separated from the center core will throttle up to full power. It'll run another 55 seconds. Finally, at just past 3.5 minutes after liftoff, the center core will shut down, called Main Engine Cutoff, MECO. The second stage separates. From this point on, it's like a Falcon 9 mission, other than we're having 3 boosters all returning to Earth at the same time. The fairing will separate, the second stage engine fires twice, eventually sending the stage and payload out into geosynchronous transfer orbit around the Earth. So that gives you a feel for the sequence of events we're planning to demonstrate on this flight of the Falcon Heavy. Everybody right now is reporting things look nominal. The checkout sequences are good. We're closing out propellant load at T-minus 3 minutes and 16 seconds and counting. Let's watch and listen in to the final countdown of Falcon Heavy.
Strong backside retract angle of 88.3 degrees.
Stage 2 left, close down. Falcon Heavy is on internal power.
Ground gas closeouts is starting.
Go for launch.
Minutes, 30 seconds. Minutes, 15 seconds.
Vehicle's flight pressures.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Vehicle's pitching downrange.
And we're beginning deep throttle. Center core at deep throttle.
Plus 33 seconds into flight. Under the power of 5.1 million pounds of thrust, Falcon Heavy is headed to space. We're throttling down at T plus 40 seconds to prepare for maximum dynamic pressure.
Power and telemetry are nominal.
We're hearing reports. Power and telemetry are nominal.
Vehicle is supersonic.
You may have heard the call out on Net 1. Vehicle is supersonic. Side boosters are throttling back up on power as we're through the period of maximum dynamic pressure. Trajectory looking good. You can hear the applause behind me as we've gotten past maximum dynamic pressure. Next event coming up is chill-in of the MVAC-D engine. Get the turbo pump ready to ignite the main engine on the second stage in another couple of minutes. Merlin engine performance looks good. We've begun dropping power on the side boosters to decrease loads on the center core.
Second load limiting shutdown.
Continuing to decrease loads to minimize acceleration on the Falcon Heavy structure. Coming up on booster engine cutoff, called BECO, and separation of the two side boosters.
MVAC engine chill.
BECO.
Booster separation confirmed.
Successful separation, if you can hear me over the cheering. Side boosters now beginning a flip to begin returning back to Cape Canaveral.
Boost back burn.
Side boosters have begun the boost back burn. The center core has throttled back up to power. Everything looking good on the flight of Falcon Heavy. The next major event, main engine cutoff of the center core and separation ignition of the second stage. Bottom middle view shows the view looking up into the nozzle of the second stage engine.
MECO.
Main engine cutoff, center core shut
Stage
down.
separation confirmed. MVAC ignition.
Again, over the cheering, MVAC-D engine up on power. It looks good. Side boosters looking good, still burning on their way back to Cape Canaveral. Grid fins are out on the center core.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Here comes the fairing separation, and there it goes. We also have successful shutdown of the side booster boost back burn. So T plus 4 minutes 25 seconds into flight. Side boosters on their way back to Cape Canaveral. Center core coasting out over the
trajectory
Atlantic.
nominal.
Stage 2 looking good with a nominal trajectory.
And as you guys have noticed, the grid fins have deployed on the side boosters as well as the center core. Those work to help guide the boosters back to a nice targeted soft landing. Let's see those heading home right now. As a reminder, today we'll be attempting to recover all 3 of the first stage cores, and all 3 boosters are currently on their way heading home. In just a few minutes, the side boosters will execute an entry burn, followed by a landing burn, and the center core will do much the same a few minutes later. Both burns are meant to slow the stage's speed down rapidly before landing.
At the time of separation, the side boosters were traveling slow enough to turn around and make their way
Stage
back to
2
land at our
mid-flight
side-by-side landing pads. The center core, on the other hand, is going too fast to efficiently return to the Cape, so we're using our autonomous drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. If we have a successful landing today, the side boosters will be reflown on our next Falcon Heavy mission, STP-2. Now, coming up at about T plus 6 minutes will be the side boosters re-entry burn.
Acquisition of signal Bermuda.
So you'll see the side boosters on your left and right screen.
Side booster entry burn has started.
And there's the re-entry burn beginning.
Stage 2 trajectory nominal.
And the re-entry burn is complete for the side boosters. Now, coming up in about 30 seconds, the center core, which you see on your center screen, will begin its re-entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn has started. Side boosters are transonic.
And there you can see the re-entry burn for center core has begun. Coming up in about 5 seconds here, the side boosters landing burn will begin as well.
Side booster landing burn has started.
Sight to see.
Now we're waiting for the engine to shut down on the second stage and for the center core to land. Now, if all goes well, we'll have successfully recovered all 3 boosters, which we have never done before. Now, coming up in about 20 seconds, we're going to listen for confirmation of SECO 1, or second engine cutoff 1.
Ship AOS. And back shutdown.
And we have confirmation.
Center core
now we're
is
just waiting to hear
transonic.
good orbit.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And we have that confirmed, good orbit.
Now coming up here in about 15 seconds will be the center core landing burn beginning. So again, as we mentioned earlier, this is going to be a challenging landing.
Stage 1, landing
And we
burn
are
is starting.
landing on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. And
Center core landing legs are deployed.
looks like we lost the live view.
This is recovery. Center core.
Waiting for some confirmation, and it sounds like we landed the center core on our drone ship. We have landed the center core for the first time on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. For the first time we've landed all 3 boosters for Falcon Heavy. What an amazing day. So now we are going to take a quick break. You can hear our crowd going wild. 3 for 3 boosters today on Falcon Heavy. What an amazing accomplishment. So now the primary mission is still going well. We are about to enter the coast phase, so we're going to take a quick break. But we'll leave you with an animation that shows you where we are throughout the coast phase. We will be back at about T plus 26 minutes for second stage relight and the deployment of our satellite.
Welcome back to the webcast for the Arabsat 6A Falcon Heavy mission. We're at T plus 26 minutes, 45 seconds. Second stage with the satellite is about to cross the equator, west coast of Africa. So far today, if you missed it, you missed a great show. Liftoff right on time, 35 minutes after the hour. Side boosters separated as planned. 2 successful landings on landing zone 1 and 2. Center core shut down, second stage separated. Second stage went into the desired parking orbit where we are right now. And the center core executed a toasty landing out in the Atlantic Ocean on the drone ship. Now coming up in about 20 seconds, we're going to get ignition, about a brief reignition of the upper stage engine to carry the payload into the desired transfer orbit.
And back ignition.
Confirmation of ignition. We are up at the desired power. Tank pressure looks good. The turbine temps look good. You may have seen just before ignition the large white fluffy pieces moving away. That is solid oxygen. The stuff you breathe, it's so cold that it's solid, but it is not very dense. It's very fluffy, and it is actually attached to one of the liquid oxygen overboard drain lines that we use. So coming off is normal. Now this burn is about an 85-second burn. In that time, we'll add 2,800 meters per second to our velocity. That's more than the side boosters provided early in flight, almost as much as what the center core gave us. We've throttled down the engine to keep accelerations below the limit for our Arabsat customer. Everything continues to look good. The views of the nozzle of the upper stage engine coming from 2 SpaceX cameras on either side of the second stage. Continuing to throttle down, and we have shut down.
And back shutdown.
Right now we're waiting to hear what the final orbit looks like.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Guidance engineer over one of the nets announced nominal orbit insertion. Right where we want to be, we're on a path that'll take us almost 90,000 kilometers up above the Earth. Well, now we're in the good orbit we wanted. We're going to coast for the next 5 minutes or so. We'll be back with continuing coverage at T plus 33 minutes for the final step in today's mission, deployment of the Arabsat 6A satellite.
position of signal, HPK. Signal expected.
Welcome back. T plus 33 minutes, 29 seconds since liftoff. We're about half a minute away from the deployment of the Arabsat 6A satellite. Now currently the second stage has begun a slow spin up. That'll help stabilize the satellite. It'll retain that spin when it separates from the second stage. Now, currently the camera view has switched forward looking at the Arabsat 6A spacecraft. And if you've just joined us now, you've missed a great day. Both side boosters landed at the Cape. Center core landed, second stage right in the desired orbit. And now we're waiting for separation.
Spacecraft separation confirmed.
As you can tell behind me, the folks who watched the mission cheering. Arabsat 6A headed away into the desired orbit, doing its mission in space. That puts a capper on what's been a completely normal day here at SpaceX.
And with that, that brings our webcast to a close. Thanks to our customer Arabsat for entrusting us with tonight's mission. Thank you to the 45th Space Wing and Range Safety and the FAA for licensing today's launch.
We'd also like to thank all of you, our viewers, for tuning into such an exciting launch today. Follow our website and social media platforms for updates.
Good morning. On your screen is a live view of Starship as it awaits its second attempt at our first ever integrated flight test from Starbase, Texas. If all goes well, we hope to see our Starship spacecraft and Super Heavy booster, which we collectively call Starship, lift off together for the first time in exactly 33 minutes from now. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Kate Tice, Quality Systems Engineering Manager here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California.
And I'm Shiva Bharadwaj, a space operations engineer here at SpaceX. Now, if you've been following along, you'll know that we stood down from our initial launch attempt on Monday, and that was due to a frozen pressurization valve on the Super Heavy booster.
SpaceX teams investigated the issue and determined that this valve had some moisture in it, which caused the valve to freeze up when we were loading super chilled liquid oxygen into the booster.
Now, these valves are super important because we actually need a pressurant to go back into the tank as we consume propellant, and we actually use a pressurant that comes from the Raptor engines. It's heated down there and then put back in the tank. And so a frozen valve there would be a problem during the launch.
Yeah, and that's important. You can think of it like drinking out of a thin plastic water bottle. If you're chugging that water, it crinkles if you don't let air back into it. So we use that hot exhaust gas from the Raptor engines to refill that consumed volume as propellant is depleted. So it was a great find by the countdown, and that's why we have a countdown, is to allow us to find those issues prior to liftoff. So all of that being said, our teams learned a lot over the last 48 hours, and we are ready to give it another go. As many of you know, Starship is the latest and largest vehicle developed to date by SpaceX. It will be the world's most powerful launch vehicle once fully developed and have twice the thrust of the Saturn V rocket. But the key breakthrough with Starship is that it will be fully reusable and capable of carrying up to 150 metric tons of payload to orbit in a reusable configuration and up to 250 metric tons when expendable.
Now, for context, Falcon 9 is only partially reusable. We recovered the largest part of the rocket, that's called the first stage, but we don't recover the second stage. And Falcon 9's heaviest payload to date is just over 17 metric tons. So 150 to 250 metric tons on Starship is an order of magnitude greater in terms of the payload capacity. Now, for today's test, we will be the first of many as we work towards transitioning Starship from a developmental into an operational program. And the primary objective today is to gather as much data as we can around the fully integrated vehicle. Now, while we have flown the Starship spacecraft in the past, it is going to be the first attempt of Super Heavy and the first opportunity for us to validate how the two vehicles operate together.
We are so excited for this. The purposes for today's flight, we will consider any data received that helps inform and improve future builds of Starship as a success. From a milestone standpoint, our main goal is to clear the pad. Every milestone beyond that is a bonus. The further we fly, the more data we can collect.
Now, if it does all go well, then we'll expect the Super Heavy to light up its 33 Raptor engines at the base of the vehicle and lift off, clear the pad away down from Starbase, in Starbase, Texas. And then it'll go into ascent. About 3 minutes into its ascent, we're going to expect to see Super Heavy separate from the Starship. It'll perform a flip maneuver, and then it'll execute a boost back burn, and we're going to be targeting a hard landing in the Gulf of Mexico.
And while that's happening, we hope to see Starship's 6 second stage engines ignite and watch as Starship coasts for about an hour at altitudes ranging between 150 and 250 kilometers before re-entering Earth's atmosphere and make its own hard landing in the Pacific Ocean about 250-ish kilometers offshore. Now, we are not really expecting many camera views after separation. That is to say, if we even make it that far. But we do promise that whatever views we do have, we will bring them to you live.
Yep. We have a couple of ground stations along the way. So if we are able to get good telemetry, assuming we make it that far into the ascent, then of course those will be available on the stream. And also worth mentioning today, like the whole just getting the vehicle off the pad is a complex endeavor. We are going to be trying to reduce complexity by attempting those hard water landings instead of trying a normal landing like you're used to on Falcon 9.
Exactly. We are not attempting to recover these vehicles. So yeah, hard landings in store for both.
Now, in a little bit, we'll take a closer look at the vehicle and the launch pad. But first, the teams have been doing a tremendous amount of work over the last few months. In fact, there's a great shot of our Hawthorne team up here bright and early to watch the launch. Teams have been prepping really for the last few days, especially to try to get in today's launch attempt.
And here you can see a live view of the South Padre Amphitheater where both SpaceX employees, friends and family, and members of the public are gathering to watch Starship lift off. And we can see the crowds are gathering there as well. And of course, we want to give a shout out to the SpaceX team. You see them there on screen, members of our our Star Command Center. That is our Starbase Launch Control Center.
Yep, those are the operators today who are going to be reviewing all the data and, of course, giving us the go, no go poll, checking the status to try to get in today's launch attempt just around 27 minutes from now.
And one thing I do want to mention, I misspoke. It's not the South Padre Amphitheater, it's the Cameron County Amphitheater.
Now, the entire Starship structure on your screen is made from stainless steel. When it's stacked, it stands about 120 meters tall. It's about 9 meters around. And we have this awesome video that shows you just how big that is. You can see one of our technicians there doing some final prep work in advance of today's test. And man, there's the 120-meter monster.
The person just keeps getting smaller and smaller. Now, just like Falcon 9, Starship has 2 stages, which we'll talk more about those in a minute. In addition to those 2 stages, Starship actually has a 3rd stage, which we call Stage 0. It consists of all the launch pad infrastructure built around the rocket, as you can see there on your screen, and it's truly an engineering feat in its own right.
Yeah, we've got a great shot there of the various different components of it. The pad, the infrastructure, all that is required to get into filling the tanks. Now, let's talk about the Super Heavy. Its name says everything. It's super, it's heavy, it's super heavy. When it's operational, it'll be responsible for providing the power to escape that mighty gravitational pull of Earth that we've got here and take Starship into orbit.
The booster itself stands about 70 meters tall and is roughly the same height as a fully integrated Falcon 9, which is just so crazy to me. But this Super Heavy booster has a diameter roughly 2.5 times that of Falcon 9, and with 33 much larger engines. We have a beautiful view here. This is one of my favorite views that we're going to get today. Those are our 33 Raptor engines at the base of the Super Heavy booster.
Yep, and you can see they're in a couple of different rings here. So we've got the outer ring of 20 static engines. They're going to be providing a huge amount of thrust today to lift off the entire stack. But then we've got the 13 gimbaling engines in the middle, and they're going to be providing the tilt maneuvers and also helping to reorient the booster as it comes back later in today's flight.
Yeah, and when we say gimbal, it's basically tilting or almost wiggling the engines a few degrees and in either direction to allow the booster to steer itself, just as you said, Shiva.
And we'll get some great shots later of actually a wiggle test that we perform ahead of liftoff, just to make sure that all of those engines are able to control their full range of control authority.
One thing to note, those Raptor engines are completely designed and manufactured in-house. They are, as many of you know that have been following along, they are a reusable methane oxygen staged combustion type engine. So it's a lot of words there. And ultimately, that staged combustion means that we combust the propellant in stages that we kind of pre-combust them in a pre-burner, and by doing so, it allows the engine to be more efficient, i.e. more powerful.
Yeah. Now, like Falcon 9, the Super Heavy has 4 grid fins to assist with orienting itself in its return back to Earth. We got a shot of them there beneath the Starship's aft flaps. Now, as we talked about earlier, Super Heavy is not going to be attempting a land landing today, but with this flight test, we're still trying to get as much data as we can. We're focusing on the fundamental systems and operations, so that's the liftoff portion. But we are going to try to get some data on how the fins work and for that water landing that Super Heavy is going to be making after ascent.
I love that great view of the fins there. Now, Starship, or the spacecraft, is the 2nd stage, and it makes up the top portion of the vehicle. It's designed for carrying passengers and cargo to Earth orbit and beyond. It stands about 50 meters tall, which is a little taller than the Statue of Liberty. It's comprised of 6 Raptor engines, 3 sea level and 3 vacuum engines, which are optimized to operate in the vacuum of space. And they provide a maximum of 258,000 tons of thrust in vacuum. Spacecraft is also outfitted with 4 flaps to help aerodynamically control the vehicle's attitude, which you can see those 2 forward flaps there on your screen now. So they help control the vehicle's attitude during atmospheric flight and enable precise landing at the intended location. Now, one thing we got to mention, the heat shields. They are iconic. Starship is wrapped in a heat shield, which is composed of 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles designed to insulate the vehicle during that atmospheric entry. And that's really important because the temperatures can be as high as 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit. The hex-shaped tiles, like the ones that Shiva and I have, roughly make up about 2/3 of the vehicle. We can see that we have some different shapes. Mine is slightly curved. As you can imagine, it sits on the curved portions of the Starship vehicle.
Now, the one that I've got is a hexagonal tile that's more flat, and it's really used for the flatter structures on the vehicle. And we need a heat shield because when you're coming back in from re-entry, we're going supersonic, we're compressing all the air ahead of us. That ends up causing a lot of heating along the surface, and without a heat shield, that would go straight into the structure.
Yeah, one thing that's amazing to me, especially when I first picked up one of these heat shield tiles, is that they're so light. They almost feel like they're made out of foam. They're that light, and they kind of sound like it too. And one thing that we do want to mention, in order to reject the maximum amount of heat during that entry, like Shiva was just saying, they're black, and that's because black helps reject that heat that is building up on the exterior of the heat shield.
Now, Starship is designed for vertical takeoff and landing as opposed to taking off and landing like an airplane, and that's because that's really important because we don't have runways on the moon or Mars. Fortunately, at those destinations, the gravity is not as high as it is here on Earth. On Mars, the gravity is just 1/3 of what it is here on Earth, and on the moon, it's just a sixth. So in both of those cases, Starship, with just its engines, can take off without needing the super heavy booster like we do need here on planet Earth.
Now, for today's test, Starship does not have its landing legs attached because, like we said before, it won't be returning anywhere. Starship is expected to make a very hard ocean landing, which, if we even make it that far and manage to get any views, it will certainly make for a very exciting end to today's test. At this point in time, we are 20 minutes, or just over 20 minutes from liftoff. Let's check in with John Innsbrucker for a status update. Hey, John, how's it looking?
Thanks, Kate. I'm John Innsbrucker, Principal Integration Engineer here at SpaceX. We're currently loading propellant from the ground system into both the first and second stages. Now, both vehicles use the same two propellants. That commonality helps build the reliability. And the fuel today is liquid methane, and that's at a temperature of just over 100 kelvins. That's about minus 272 degrees below zero on the Fahrenheit scale. Now, liquid methane is a different fuel from Falcon 9. That booster uses RP1 kerosene. However, our oxidizer is liquid oxygen, and that's the same as Falcon 9. Because there is no oxygen in space to support combustion, we have to bring our own. Now, leading up to where we are right now, we had a go-no-go poll. That was conducted just after T-minus 2 hours. And once the team gave their goes, we started loading propellants onto the booster at T-minus 1 hour and 39 minutes. At T-minus 1 hour and 22 minutes, we began propellant loading of the ship. The second stage you can see on your screen right there. Now, propellant loading of the Starship's second stage main tanks completed at about the T-minus 27-minute mark, at which time we then began loading the two header tanks in the nose of the second stage. Now, at T-minus 3 minutes, when the first stage super heavy propellant loading completes, that means we'll have all the propellant on the rocket, and the vehicle will be fully loaded with over 10 million pounds of propellant. Now, right now, at T-minus 19 minutes and counting from liftoff, the weather and winds are looking good. We have been watching the ground level winds. They're at 18 miles an hour. As the morning continues, they will increase, but that is below our limits right now. We're also looking at upper altitude winds. We're waiting for one more balloon, but we believe that we're going to be go. On the launch vehicle itself, the teams, the good news, they're not working any issues right now. But if for some reason we do not make our test flight today, if we have to hold, we have a backup launch window. However, we're not sure when it would be. It could be 24 or 48 hours after today. It'll depend on how far we get into the countdown. But right now, heading for a T0 at 8:28 Central, 13:28 Universal Time. Kate, everything is looking good.
Awesome news. Now, in order to make life multiplanetary, we need a fully reusable vehicle that's capable of carrying a huge amount of cargo and a lot of people to orbit and have a pretty quick turnaround. The idea is to effectively reuse launch vehicles just like airplanes.
Yeah, imagine if you had to wait for a new airplane to be constructed every time you wanted to fly. You'd rarely go anywhere, and for most of us, it would be completely unaffordable. In order for us to get to Mars and back with lots of people, lots of cargo, multiple times, reusability really is a must.
In advance of our first missions to Mars, Starship will execute a number of missions with both cargo and people, starting with Earth orbit and eventually expanding to the Moon and beyond.
Now, in the near term and a bit closer to home, Starship will also be critical to other programs. Once fully operational, it'll deliver the full-size and upgraded version of our Starlink satellites, and that's super exciting because our next-generation satellites represent a step forward in Starlink's capabilities and will allow us to connect millions of more people around the world with high-speed internet to watch launch webcasts.
Such an exciting future ahead of us, but first, let's talk a little about how we got to where we are today.
Now, Starship's testing ramped up in July of 2019 with our Starhopper prototype, sort of a short version of the Starship that we see today. There's a great photo of it. It was just over 18 meters tall. It had a single Raptor engine, and we had it to test fly and perform low-level altitude maneuvers and attempt landing. The initial test flight, or hop, reached about 20 meters in altitude. That was followed by the one that you've got on your screen here. This was our 150-meter altitude hop. We went up, took a little jaunt away, about 100 meters or so away from the launch pad, used that Raptor engine to fly and actually land. And actually, this hopper is actually down at Starbase now.
Yeah, I love this shot. It's just so fun to see it fly. After a series of 150-meter hop tests with earlier prototypes, the Starship program saw a major breakthrough during a test flight of the vehicle known as serial number 8, or SN8. You can see it there on your screen now. In December 2020, SN8 demonstrated a first-of-its-kind controlled aerodynamic descent and landing flip maneuver. 2 words, belly flop. The SN8 prototype rose to an altitude of 12.5 kilometers or 7.8 miles and conducted a belly flop maneuver, which you see there, during its descent. While it didn't stick the landing, the test was a major milestone in the development of Starship. In fact, we should be able to see that unfortunately failed landing. Boom. It was fun to watch, though.
Rapid unscheduled disassembly, but learned a lot of data. Now, the testing continued on to prototype serial number 9. It took a 10-kilometer flight. That's about 6.2 miles up. In February of 2021, we had a nominal ascent. We executed the engine cutoffs once we got to the top of the altitude window. We did that belly flop maneuver, which is so much more fun to say than controlled descent, aerodynamic maneuver. That was all stable, but unfortunately, we had a dramatic end on this flight as well. We had a failure on one of the engines that resulted in another pretty large fireball. But what was really cool about both of those flights was how much we learned just between serial numbers 8 and 9 and how quickly we were able to achieve our primary objectives in those 2 flights. In addition to that, we got so much data that demonstrated control of the vehicle in that subsonic regime.
Ultimately, we performed 9 Starship high-altitude test flights in total. And then, as you see on your screen there, in May of 2021, SN15 launched from Starbase, reached an altitude of about 10 kilometers, performed a number of maneuvers, and safely returned to the launch site. This was the first Starship prototype to fly, control its descent, safely land, and be recovered in one piece.
And people were cheering like crazy
I was
after
one of
that
them.
test flight. Now, having achieved those successes in our suborbital campaign, one of the next big challenges is for the upper stage when it comes to reusability and surviving the hypersonic, really high heating phase of entry. Combined with the later ability to refill Starship's tank with propellants, the fuel and oxygen, while we're on orbit, that will enable us to have a fully reusable transportation system that's designed to carry both crew and cargo on long-duration missions, interplanetary flights, and will help humanity get to the moon, travel to Mars, and beyond in our solar system.
This is all just basically our path of progress, basically an iteration on each vehicle. And that iterative process is a core part of how we work here at SpaceX. We like to test early and often, publicly as well in our case. And that's both for hardware and software. And while it doesn't always go as expected, we learn so much from it, and it informs our next attempt.
Yeah, we learn a lot from actually putting the vehicle through flight-like tests. Even the test on Monday gave us an opportunity to learn more about the vehicle into today's launch attempt, and so far things are looking really good. Now, we are continuing into our countdown. We're about T-minus 12 minutes to go. I think it's a perfect time for another check-in with John Insparker. How's it going, John?
Well, Shiva, the good news is that the nets are quiet. The teams are currently working. No significant launch vehicle issues. You can see the T clock there on your screen, T-minus 12 minutes, 10 seconds, and counting. Propellant loading is continuing on both the Super Heavy and the ship stages. You can see the graphic on the left-hand side of the screen. Most recently, we began loading liquid oxygen and liquid methane fuel into the header tanks on Starship. Those are two small tanks just underneath the nose of the second stage. Now that started at T-minus 27 minutes. That'll be wrapping up at about that will be wrapping up about T-minus 9 minutes. Now the Starship second stage main fuel and LOX tanks are loaded for flight right now. The Super Heavy first stage booster propellant loading is continuing, and that'll go till about T-minus 3 minutes. We're underway with engine chill as we get ready for T0, and we're also configuring the launch pad for liftoff. The booster hold downs have been unlatched. They'll be ready to retract at liftoff. And the second stage quick disconnect is beginning its configuration for release. The methane and liquid oxygen propellants currently going to the second stage go through that quick disconnect. That's that arm that reaches out from the tower to the base of the second stage. The SpaceX team continues to check in with the Coast Guard. Good news is we've not heard any reports of boats in the safety perimeter as the launch vehicle heads out over the Gulf of Mexico. So right now, T-minus 10 minutes, 40 seconds, and counting. Everything continues to go well for an on-time launch.
Now, today's test flight is taking place out of our Starbase facility in South Texas, and that test site has gone through a huge amount of development over the last couple of years.
One thing I want to point out, this is a great view from our drone. Not only can we see the pad, but in the fog, kind of in the distance, in the background and to the left of the pad, you can actually see our production facility, which is the other part of Starbase in addition to the launch pad.
Of course, as part of rapidly iterating with our test program, we're also rapidly iterating on our production system to produce Starships and Super Heavies. Last year, the Starbase team produced 4 Starship Super Heavy boosters and 5 Starships, along with their 200th Raptor 2 engine, and they're only scaling up from there, Kate.
Yeah, it's incredible to think that for 2023, production has 5 boosters and 8 Starships going. So it's incredible. And it's important to have that system fill in basically the manufacturing line so that we have product ready to go as soon as we're done with this test.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, I mean, we talked about how Starship is an order of magnitude more payload to orbit. But if you're going to go set up a base on the moon or Mars, you're going to need thousands of metric tons of propellants. And so you're going to need a fleet of vehicles that's capable of doing that.
Yeah, one thing to note, Starbase directly employs more than 1,800 employees. It's the largest employer in the area, in fact. And we're very thankful to Cameron County for being so supportive. This is a view from the Cameron County Amphitheater. And there's a crowd there, and you could tell by the energy here in Hawthorne as well that everyone's getting really exciting. I feel my own heart rate going up and up.
I know. It must be really, really exciting to go see this. And I mean, just the sheer amount of power on Starship, you're going to feel it down there when this thing lifts off from the pad. We've actually got a great shot here of the natural surroundings around the pad. Oddly enough, most of the pads end up being around sort of wild locations like this. But coming up on T-minus 8 minutes, I think it's another good time for check-in with John.
Thank you, Shiva. T-minus just over 8 minutes to the first test flight of Starship. Currently, we are pressurizing second stage. We are also closing out liquid oxygen and fuel header loads on the second stage. We're also getting ready for propellant load tank pressurization on the first stage. In fact, we are just now closing out header tank load on the second stage. Now with the header tanks loaded and closed out, that means we're down to just the first stage to finish loading. That'll finish about T-minus 3 minutes. And at that point, when both stages are loaded, we will have the 10 million pounds of liquid propellant on board. Now in the next few minutes, the guidance system will begin its final alignment for flight during a quiet period when the rocket's not doing anything. The automated flight termination system will be armed, and a final TVC checkout will be performed. Those are the engine wiggles, and hopefully we'll be able to see that with the cameras underneath the vehicle and maybe even the second stage engines. And there's a view looking underneath the super heavy first stage with the 33 Raptor engines. Now, a reminder as we continue counting down, if we do need to hold, the point where we hold the clock would be at T-minus 40 seconds. We can pause there. Typically in the past, if we need a little bit more time to finish final checkouts or do some pressurization of the onboard storage tanks, that's where we would hold. But currently, we're not hearing a need to hold, so at 6 minutes, 27 seconds, everything looks good. And of course, Kate, Shiva, as we get close, we're going to get into the engine ignition sequence of 33 Raptors, and that's going to be something new for everybody.
I cannot wait for that moment. So for those of you that are familiar with how we launch Falcon 9 rockets, you probably know that we light all 9 of those first stage Merlin 1D engines all at once. It's pretty different than what we do, or what we're attempting to do today. We're actually going to be igniting those 33 engines in banks or clusters, and that sequence starts at T-minus 6 seconds.
Yeah, and the ignition sequence is a little bit different, both in terms of the timing and also the ignition method. So on Falcon 9, we use a chemical called T-Tab. It's a pyrophoric material, so that means when you mix the two together, it produces a flame that kicks off that green characteristic spark on Falcon 9 missions. But actually on Starship, we use electrical ignition systems. Many of those are integrated on the ground system here. And the electrical ignition, we start lighting the banks at T-minus 6 seconds, and then over the next 4 seconds, the 3 sets of banks will ignite and eventually bring the booster up to a thrust to weight greater than 1 and hopefully ascent.
Super exciting. Like we said, pretty different from our Falcon 9 launches, and so this will be the first time that any of us have gotten to see this type of integrated test flight with both the Starship and the Super Heavy booster.
Everyone cheering as we get into T-minus 5 minutes.
We want to remind everyone that success today is anything.
Yeah, it looks fun down there. I kind of want to go join them.
For today, success is anything that we learn that helps improve the future builds of Starship. Off and clear the pad. We're calling that a win.
A great shot of the pad there. A great shot of the quick disconnect on the second stage. You can see the frost line on the booster where that
Nice launch trajectory and countdown net. Pad is clear.
10, 9, 8.
Launch auto sequence has started.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go for launch.
seconds. Separation confirmed. Stage 1 is transonic. Landing legs have deployed. And Falcon 9 has landed.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the webcast for the Arabsat Beta 8 mission. Today's launch will mark SpaceX's 35th launch of the year and 234th overall mission to date. My name is Zachary Lupin, and I'm an avionics reliability engineer here at SpaceX, joining you from our headquarters in Hawthorne, California. I'll be your host as we follow Falcon 9 taking the Arabsat Beta 8 payload to geostationary orbit from Florida's Space Launch Complex 40. Now, as you may have guessed by the name of the mission, our customer today is Arabsat. Arabsat is a satellite operator and leading satellite services provider, carrying over 650 TV channels, 245 radio stations, and pay TV networks in more than 60 countries. The payload on board our second stage today, Beta 8, was built by Airbus and will provide connectivity over Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia, and features Airbus's innovative space demonstrator Teleo to provide space-to-ground optical communications at gigabit speeds. Today's launch marks SpaceX's second launch with Arabsat, most recently having launched Arabsat 6A on our Falcon Heavy vehicle in 2019. And we'll have more information from our customer a little bit later in the webcast. At T-minus 11 minutes and 52 seconds, the vehicle and spacecraft are healthy, and while range is ready to support, weather is currently a watch item due to some nearby thunderstorms, but our teams will continue to monitor up until T0. If for some reason we don't launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 1:22 a.m. Eastern Time. On your screen is a live view of our two-stage Falcon 9 rocket that stands at about 230 feet tall. Now, starting from the very top of the rocket, we have the payload fairing, which is about 40 feet tall and 17 feet in diameter. Now, to put that size into perspective, an average fire truck is about 40 feet long and 12 feet wide, so a fire truck would fit very comfortably inside of the payload fairing. The fairing's job is to protect the payload from aerothermal loads, heating, and contamination during ascent. And both fairing halves supporting today's mission are flight-proven, with one half flying for its 8th time and the other flying for its 9th. Now, once we reach the vacuum of space, we will jettison the fairing as the second stage will continue on its journey to orbit. And after separation from the second stage, both fairing halves will be recovered again with the help of our recovery vessel, Bob. Now, below the payload fairing is the second stage, which is responsible for taking the Arabsat payload to its drop-off orbit in space. Not only does SpaceX's second stage look similar to the first stage, which is the larger stage below, it also has the same diameter, uses the same metal in its tanks, has the same onboard computer, uses the same propellants, and has nearly the same engine. And this allows us to use similar tooling, design, and systems to essentially build two rockets that are more reliable. Now, the first and second stages are connected by the interstage, which has pneumatic pushers that allow stage separation during flight. The interstage also houses the 10th engine connected to the second stage, and that is called the Merlin Vacuum Engine, or MVAC engine. The bottom two-thirds of the Falcon 9 vehicle is the first stage and is the primary part of the rocket that gets reused multiple times. On the very bottom of the first stage are the 9 Merlin M1D engines that accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere and into various orbits in space. Now, the first stage supporting today's mission is no stranger to space travel and is flying for its 14th time, having previously supported GPS-3, Space Vehicle 4 and 5, Inspiration 4, Axiom 1, Nilesat 301, OneWeb Launch 17, and 7 Starlink missions. For today's launch, we will be attempting to recover the booster using our drone ship Just Read the Instructions, which is currently stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, with liftoff currently set at 1:22 a.m. Eastern Time, here are a few words from the President and CEO of Arabsat.
Ladies and gentlemen, greetings and welcome to the Arabsat Beta 8 satellite launch. I'm thrilled to be here today to celebrate this momentous occasion with all of you. I'd like to express my gratitude to Airbus, our satellite manufacturer, for providing us with the latest technology and expertise, and for our standing relationship that has spanned over 25 years. Their contribution has been crucial to the success of this project, and we couldn't have done it without them. I would like to thank SpaceX for their valuable contribution to this project. Their expertise in launch services has been instrumental in bringing the Badr 8 satellite to its designated orbit today. And we are honored to have them as our partners. The Badr 8 satellite is a state-of-the-art addition to Arabsat orbital position 26 degrees east. It offers a wide range of services for satellite communications, television broadcasting, and information exchange in C and Ku frequency bands. Badr 8 will be joining our Badr satellite network at Arabsat 26 East hotspot and bringing advanced technologies and extended coverage with multiple bands to enable broadcasting partners to get their content to their audience in MENA, Central Asia, and North and West Africa effectively. This new satellite enhances our capabilities and capacities to meet the modern and advanced solutions our customers expect. And we are excited about the opportunities that it will bring. Our leading role in the Middle East and North Africa regions for satellite broadcasting and communications will also be strengthened. The launch is one of Arabsat's most strategic projects, making significant milestones for our organization and the Arab world. This launch is one of Arabsat's most strategic projects, making a significant milestone for our organization and the Arab world. We are proud of our achievements, and we look forward to continuing to provide innovative and reliable satellite solutions to our customers. Thank you for joining us to this journey, and we are excited about what the future holds for Arabsat and our partners.
Today's launch actually marks SpaceX's 125th launch from the pad you see on your screen.
Stage 1, fuel load complete.
Located at the north end of Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, Space Launch Complex 40, also referred to as Slick 40, previously supported Titan launches by the U.S. Air Force between 1965 to 2005. The launch complex was then leased to SpaceX in 2007, and since then, we've had 189 total launches from Florida, with 124 of those launches lifting off from Pad 40. And Slick 40 is indeed home to a handful of SpaceX firsts. From this pad, we've seen the first flight of Falcon 9 and Dragon, the initial COTS, or Commercial Orbital Transportation Services flights that began in December 2010, the beginning of the Commercial Resupply Services, or CRS flights, with CRS-1 having flown in October 2012, and even the first flights of the landing legs and grid fins all happened from Space Launch Complex 40 in December of 2015. Now, 124 missions later, and riding on the coattails of the most recent Axiom 2 mission that launched just a few days ago, SpaceX is planning on building a crew tower at Slick 40 to be able to launch future crew and cargo from this pad in addition to 39A. And this will bring us one step closer to making humanity multiplanetary. Now, at T-minus 5 minutes until liftoff, we should be seeing the transporter erector clamp arms beginning to open from beneath the fairing. Now, we should see that in about 40 seconds from now. When the clamp arms fully
pressurizing for strongback retract.
When the clamp arms fully open beneath the fairing, the TE, or transporter erector, will begin to pull away from the rocket slightly. The transporter erector is the truss structure next to the rocket that is used for rollout and to route propellants and electrical power to the vehicle in preparation for launch. And at T0, ground hydraulic systems will pull the TE even further away from Falcon 9 as it lifts off. So watch on your screen for those clamp arms that'll open just below the payload fairing there. And there you can see those clamp arms opening. Now, the first stage is connected to a launch mount at the base of the transporter erector, but the structure is hinged and will retract away from the vehicle in preparation for launch. Now, while you may hear it referred to as the strongback from the launch team, but transporter erector is also used to refer to this structure. So we should be seeing that strongback beginning to recline here momentarily. At this point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Both first stage and second stage should finish loading propellant about a minute.
Hold. Launch abort is running.
And as you may have heard, there was a hold called out over the nets. Give us a few moments, and we're going to check in with the team, listen in on the nets, and see if we can get some additional information to share with you. As I mentioned earlier, weather was a launch item for today's launch, and we are going to be standing down. The vehicle and payload remain in good health, so please check our social media accounts for our next launch opportunity. And as always, thank you for watching, and we hope to see everyone back here for our next attempt.
कड़ी मेहनत